Hello everybody, this is Javamonk, and today I propose to you that you can now play card games with your friends in Minecraft. This is legit, this is real, this is a project that I've been working on for the last 2 years or so, and now it's finally time to break the secrecy. I'm here to showcase how you can play card games right now in Minecraft. For the last 2 years or so, I've been working on various card games, basically trying to put them into Minecraft and make them playable. The purpose for making this video is kind of twofold. Firstly, I want to kickstart a community. Right now, I have an Aterno server, which is hosting the Card Game Hub. So, I will have a link in the description, and I will also be opening up the server every time I live stream or just whenever I feel like it. And you guys can come over and play some games. I'll also have a world download in the description if you want to download and make it into a server for yourself. So you'll notice I have 4 booths for different card games that you can play, and 3 of them are under construction. That is because I also want to start a new kind of mini series of videos where we actually construct these games. Egyptian Rat Slap is actually almost complete, so this will be coming very soon. But Hearts and Scott are 2 card games that are currently in the making, and I want to make some videos about that. But right now, you can play open-face Chinese poker. Here's how you can do that. Introducing 2 bot players that will be helping out with the multiplayer aspect of this game. So, over here on this panel of switches, you can basically turn on different portals, and these will take you to the actual arenas where you can play the game. These are in actual, different data pack dimensions, so this took quite a while to figure out how to do. Also, these are approved for update 1.19. And I will be updating them as the updates come out. So all you gotta do to enter the arena is step onto the concrete powder. And you can see little particles come up, and bam! Welcome to the arena. Let's bring the other bot players here. Once you enter an arena, you can always go back to the main hub by stepping on the sea lanterns. This will also remove you from the game. So don't worry about hitting some game over buttons or trying to reset anything. You can just leave. So, welcome to Open Face Chinese Poker. So, there are some lecterns here where you can read the books, and you can read what sort of house rules there are, how to play this game. There's also some switches here where you can change different settings. So, in this video, I would like to showcase just how to play the game. So I wanted to give y'all an explanation on how to play Chinese poker, or open-face Chinese poker. So the name of the game with Chinese poker is you'll be making a board out of poker hands. So, for instance, your board will look like this, where you have 3 different rows. The bottom row will have 5 cards, the middle row will also have 5 cards, and the top row will have 3 cards. That's one extra. So this is what a board will look like. Now, the name of the game in Chinese poker is that over the course of the game, you'll be trying to build the best possible board, meaning a board constructed out of the best possible poker hands. A poker hand, for instance, is a pair, like this pair of 9s. You can see here, this falls under the category of a pair. This bottom row here, you can see that falls under the category of a flush, because there's no particular pattern, but all of the cards are of the same suit. So, the suits and the numbers matter, and you need to know what poker hands are in order to play this game. Don't worry, it is explained in the instruction book. Now, as you're constructing this board, what you also need to know the rankings of the different poker hands. And essentially, you need the bottom row
to beat the middle row, which will then beat the top row. So you need this kind of configuration, which in this case, it looks like that is exactly what we have. On the bottom row, we have a flush. In the middle row, looks like we have a pair of nines. And then on the top row, we have a jack high, because there's no particular pattern, so it just defaults to the highest possible card. So given this arrangement, this is a valid board where you have your poker hands arranged like this. An invalid board is one where you don't have this kind of one hand is better than the other, which is better than the other. So this is a valid board, and this will be worth points based on which poker hands are positioned in which rows. So for example, a flush on the bottom row is worth 4 points as bonus points at the end of the round. Now of course, this is not solitaire. You're playing with multiple people. Other people will also have boards like this. So let's suppose that over the course of a round, you have built up this board and another player has built up this board. You'll be building up these boards independent of each other, so you can't steal cards, but since it is open face, you can see everybody else's boards as they're building it, which means you can strategize and figure out whether or not you're able to get a valid board. At the end of a round being the board construction process, at the end of that round, bonus points are awarded and boards are also compared. So for instance, this is a king high, basically king high versus a jack high on the top row. This king high wins, but will beat the top row on this board. So this person will get points. Now here, a straight, this is a straight because you have 5 cards in numerical order. Aces count as ones and also higher cards, depending on how you arrange your straight. And a straight, in terms of poker hands, is better than a pair of nines. And so this person's middle row beats my middle row. So they also get 1 point for that. Over here you can see this person has a flush. Well, both of us have flushes. The highest card on that flush is an ace. So that means these two hands are equal, which means both of us will get points. If, however, their flush was a king high, as in the highest card was a king, then my flush would beat their flush, and therefore I would get a point for doing that. Now, if somebody's board beats the other person's board on all 3 rows, they get a bonus 3 points for doing that. But the points gained by comparing boards is really a drop in the bucket compared to the bonus points gained by the hands that you construct. So really the game is very individually focused. You should be focusing on your board and trying to construct your valid board. And only really glancing at other people's boards to see what cards they have and try to calculate and figure out what cards are possible for you to get and how likely they are. Which brings me to how you actually play this game. So, the end goal is to make boards that will beat all the other players' boards and maybe get you some extra bonus points. Now, how do you construct these boards? During the round, you will start off with 5 cards given to every person. So let's say we had player 1, let's say we had player 1 and player 2. So everybody gets to look at their cards and try to arrange them how they see fit. This is incredibly lucky, by the way. Clearly these were not shuffled well. So let's say this person decides to arrange the cards like this. So you can arrange the cards however you wish. You may also take a card and discard it. So you can have up to 4 cards in your discard. You must have 13 cards on your board. So in total, you'll be getting 17 cards over the course of a round. So once everybody puts down their 5 cards, As soon as you pick up the next set of cards, you may not move the cards that you already have here. So, in each subsequent round, everybody gets 3 cards over and over until all the boards are constructed. And these cards are just delivered in batches of 3. So, again, once all the cards are placed down, you then cannot move those cards once you pick up the next set. So, here's the next triplet of cards that everybody gets. And we can arrange these. So, when you're doing a practice round, it's useful to just give everybody 17 cards right away, so that way they can choose how to arrange the board into your rows of 3, 5, and 5. You have 13 cards on the board plus 4 in your discard. And then, that's when you introduce the actual game by telling everyone, okay, now you'll just be given limited cards and limited information as you play. Now, if you want to return to that feeling of being awesome and being given 17 cards immediately, what you will need to do is construct a valid board where the top row has a poker hand that is a pair of queens or better. If you manage to pull this off, you enter what is called Fantasyland. Fantasyland is where, in the next round, you are given 17 cards right off the bat. You don't have to wait for anybody else. You can just place down your 17 cards as you wish. Everybody else still has to follow the 5-3-3-3-3-3 rule. But you will get all 17 cards right away, so you can decide how to maximize your board. Now, if you are in Fantasyland, the only way to stay in Fantasyland is to have at least a 4 of a kind or better poker hand on the bottom row, and a 3 of a kind of any kind on the top row at the very least. Well, 3 of a kind is actually the maximum hand you can have on the top row, but at least a 3 of a kind on the top row, at least a 4 of a kind on the bottom row, and it still has to be a valid board. And you can also play with jokers, and jokers are essentially wild cards. Jokers are just automatically going to be the highest card that they can be to make the highest possible combination. Now you may be wondering, in a 3-player game, everybody gets 17 cards and there'll be 1 remainder. That 1 remainder just goes away. It does not enter the game at all. Now, the normal game of Chinese poker can handle up to 3 players. But what if you somehow have more friends than just 2? Well, you will need to introduce another deck of cards. But that gets messy. If you've ever played a card game that had more than 1 deck of cards, you know exactly how much of a pain it is to then separate that deck. But in the Minecraft version, the game can handle up to 8 players. So it does this by introducing 2 new decks of cards, depending on how many players you have in the game. So that is how Chinese poker works. Now let's hop into Minecraft and see how this was implemented in Minecraft.
In Chinese Poker Minecraft Edition, here's the arena where we will be playing. So now you can kind of see why these boards are arranged in such a way. Here's your top row of 3 cards, your middle row of 5, and your bottom row of 5. Here's a lectern that has all the different point values for each of the different poker hands and different positions. So this is provided to everybody. And now you need to register as a player if you actually want to play. So with every other player, you go into the changing room to register as a player. Let's see what it looks like for this bot account. This bot account is now going to register as player 1. So the way they do that is they go in and there's going to be a pressure plate inside there. They just step on there. There's a little sound effect, and they get a message saying that they are now registered as player 1. They also get this fancy armor that kind of... So the armor color matches with the color of the kind of ring of lights above them. I'll explain what these are later. As player 2, unfortunately, you do have to go all the way across the room because the game settings are right next to player 2. So again, step on the pressure plate and you get registered as the player. Now here are the buttons for how to actually run the game. So you can push the red button that says game over. This resets everything, takes away all the armor, and just resets all the scoreboards. The begin round button begins the round. This is the deal next set of cards. This happens during the round. And then judge boards happens at the end of the round. So let's first push begin round. Oh, and make sure your settings are all set before you push that button. So you get a message that says we're loading the cards. And then soon there will be another message that says that the cards are now loaded and you will be given your 5 cards. Yep, here we go. And here are your first 5 cards. So everybody got them. You can now come up to your board and place them down as you wish. So looking at the board might be a little difficult from this perspective. So there's 2 different ways that you can get a bird's eye view. You can either push this button that says player 2 viewpoint, and this will teleport you up to here where you can now get kind of a bird's eye view of your board. To go back down, look up. There's the button that takes you back down. Another option is to flip this lever, which will pop open a chair. So all you got to do is just right-click that chair, and it really does look like you are sitting in the chair. And now this will give you a slightly angled bird's eye view. Yeah, there you go. And you can retract the chair. There's also a chair over here so that you can easily read the lectern. Just whatever you do, be careful if you're sitting in the chair, because if you retract the lever right now, it might be difficult. To do in this position. But if some other player decides to retract your chair, this is what's going to happen. Yeah, you sink through the floor. So, yeah, it's a little harrowing. So I guess there's a trolling opportunity if you wanted one. So once everybody puts their card down on their boards, you can actually enter other people's viewpoints if you want to. So you can get a bird's eye view of other people's boards. It won't affect them, and you can see everybody's cards, including what the names are. And once everybody has agreed that all their cards are on the boards, this is you can agree with that using the chat system, or you can go into a voice call on Discord or something and talk to each other like actual human beings. At which point you then agree to push this button to deal the next set of cards, and this will get you the 3 cards. By the way, I couldn't figure out how to actually enforce the rule of you can't move your cards, so I guess just follow the rule. Don't do this. There's nothing stopping you from technically breaking that rule, but just don't do it. Everybody's boards are now in place, so let's go to the viewpoint. So here we can see that for me, on the top row I have a king high. In the middle row, I have a 2 pair of aces and 7s. And on the bottom row, I have a straight. So that's my board. For bot player in this case, player 3, let's see. The person has a pair of queens on top. So if this were a valid board, they would enter Fantasyland. In the middle row, they have what looks like a pair of 5s. And so a pair of 5s does not beat a pair of queens, therefore they have an invalid board. But let's check the bottom row anyway. Looks like on the bottom row they have a straight. 'Tis a shame. It's an invalid board. Bot player who's playing player number 1. So here we see that this bot player has a king high on the top row. They have a pair of jacks in the middle row, and then what looks to be a pair of 4s on the bottom row. So you can see, looks like they were trying to shoot for a straight and didn't make it. So that sucks. This is also an invalid board. So it looks like my board is the only one that's actually valid, so I'm going to end up getting a ton of points in this process. But anyway, once all the boards are now in place, push the Judge Boards button. And here's where the lights come up. So the server's going to slow down immensely when you do this, because currently it's trying to run 1,000,000 commands in a single function. So, yeah. So, hence why you'll see armor stands flashing back and forth. You'll see these green arrows coming up, because it's kind of to mark what it's currently checking. And the lights are to really show that it is checking this board right now. So, it'll also mark off who had a valid board, who had what on their it'll also tell you what they had in their board. So here we go. And it'll also tell you how things compared. And looks like I won on all the rows just automatically, because I'm the only one who had a valid board. And therefore, I got 16 points that round. And then all the boards are wiped. And so you can now push the begin round button once more. So now we can look at the game settings. So the Joker setting will enable a disable Jokers. Jokers are wildcards, as I demonstrated in the IRL version. So let's disable them for now. Pity points. This will happen if, so in the case that you have a valid board, but you win absolutely no points that round whatsoever, then you will gain 1 pity point. So there you go. Shooting the moon. If you have a valid board where the bottom row is a jack high poker hand or worse, then you will have shot the moon. And doing that will gain you 20 points as a bonus. You can also flip this switch to just automatically put everybody into Fantasyland, regardless of what they had on their top rows. But they can flip it back, and now it's back to whatever setting it currently was. And then, as you probably expect, game over resets everything. Clears the scoreboards, clears the boards, removes anything that you placed into this room somehow for any reason. Everybody's in adventure mode, so you won't be able to destroy or place anything. But if you had to put anything in this room, it will be wiped when you push the game over button, or if everybody leaves the arena. So I wanted to give an example of what an actual good game kind of looks like. So here's what my board looks like. You can see I have a king high on the top row, I have a pair of 8s in the middle row, and a straight on the bottom row. This is a pretty good board. Over here, we have a 10 high on the top row, a straight in the middle row, and a straight on the bottom row. Of course, the cards can be rearranged. They don't have to be in a particular order. The judge board system will be able to detect what the hand is. And then over here, this bot player is actually going to be entering into Fantasyland. Because see, we have a pair of queens on top. That's the minimum requirement for Fantasyland. Also a 3 of a kind of 7s and a straight on the bottom row. So there you go. When we push judge boards, and there you go. Lots of points given out. And yeah, these messages might fill up the screen a little bit, but you can also see the sidebar that has all the points. And now, when we push begin round again, another player over there, the bot player that just got a bunch of points, is now going to be entering into Fantasyland. There you go. You have the confirmation message. So even though me and this bot player only got 5 cards that time, the bot player in Fantasyland just got all 17 cards. So they can place their cards down on the board however they wish. Meanwhile, us two are limited to just the 5-3-3-3-3-3. So I also wanted to show you what it looks like if you have a large number of people all playing Chinese poker at the same time. Large number meaning 5. Normally, the game of Chinese poker will work best for 3 players, but 5 players works absolutely seamlessly, and you don't even have to register the players in order. You can scramble up the numbers however you please. And it's still the same process. You just push the button to load cards, and here we go. I also enabled jokers, and also So what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 decks of cards because you have 5 players, which does mean that you're going to have doubled up cards. Ignore the flashing. That's just so people in adventure mode don't starve for whatever reason. So yeah, you will have doubled up cards, and that's totally fine. I mean, jokers are essentially them being wild cards. The way they work is they basically count as literally any card that you choose. So yeah, you could end up making a 4 of a kind using jokers and all the same suit. Unfortunately, the judge boards is going to take longer because we have more players. Because the judge board system has to judge one person at a time, and also each judging is running like a million commands all at once. I'm hoping that at some point I can make that more efficient, if I can figure out how to do that. But there we go. We can just wait. I should mention, if you end up with an invalid board, your board automatically gets wiped. Your discard cards are gonna stick around, and everybody's boards get wiped at the end anyway. Whoa, okay. That was the comparison. That is the comparison system. And there we go. That's what our scoreboard looks like. And once again, another player, this bot player, absolute beast, is going to end up in Fantasyland in the next round. And that is totally fine. Everything is handled just as normal. Although, there's a little modification that happens when you have jokers involved in Fantasyland. Oh, and your cards are actually given to you up through the floor. So if you're not there, your cards are just going to be sitting there. Be sure to pick them up in 5 minutes. Here's how jokers interact with Fantasyland. It depends on what you had on your top row. So, if on your top row you had a pair of jacks, which that's new, that's not normally part of the Fantasyland. But if you have a pair of jacks, you will only get 13 cards, which basically means you can't discard any cards. If you had a pair of queens on top, you get 14 cards. If you had a pair of kings, you get 15 cards. If you had a pair of aces, you get 16 cards. And you only get the full 17 cards if you have a 3 of a kind on the top row when you entered into Fantasyland. So that does also mean that if you're staying in Fantasyland, you're going to get the full 17 cards. But yeah, that was put in just so that the jokers don't completely unbalance Fantasyland, because otherwise it is seriously overpowered. By the way, from the hub, you can actually see there's going to be lights here to indicate whether or not there's a game in progress, or whether there is a maximum number of players. So the Chinese poker game is approved for 2 to 8 players at the same time. Any other players that join will have to join as spectators. But I mean, spectating is fun too. And you can see when all the bots are back out of the dimension, this light is off, meaning there are no players in this game. So I want to give credit where credit is due. I made the card game itself, but my little brother designed the banners here, as well as the interior design of this entire room. So he's also responsible for the idea of having chairs for your lecterns. Although the ability to essentially pull yourself into the floor, or have somebody pull you into the floor by flipping the lever for the chair, that was completely accidental, and I will not fix that problem, because I think it's hilarious. This interior was designed by me, and you can probably tell, because I am not a very good interior design artist. If you have any other ideas, go ahead and send them my way. You can send them through Twitter. So there you go. That is the Card Game Hub. You can join by going to Aternos. Here's the server link for the Aternos server where this is hosted. You can also download the world and make it into a server for your own. So there you go. More games will be coming soon. They will be put into the Card Game Hub. I'll be making live streams about these card games, and I might even make a little mini-series of videos where I show you how I develop these card games. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy playing these games. I'll see you next time.